100%. Yeah. Thanks, Roger, for getting NIBS interested in this, and thanks, Mike, for getting the ALN interested, and MJ, thanks for getting Broadus interested in participating as well. So.
Absolutely.
So, Mike, why don't you go ahead? There's a lot's been going on in the last few days. So.
Yeah, basically, it kind of came together yesterday. We were going to approach this BIMStorm differently anyway, and the idea was to we were going to use fake owners and fake consultants to quickly show what could happen using these tools and processes, and then capture that and show a presentation of it. What we've done before is engage the audience more actively in the entire BIMStorm activity so that they could see how it's going on. The feeling is that what people need now is something short to make them feel confident that they can adapt new web tools and processes new to them and use them effectively. And instead of using this as an education for the masses process, we were just going to expose the masses. But Kimon gave me information to connect with colleagues, and it worked out really well. MJ is working with Art at the San Antonio University Health System. Art is a senior fellow with the Asset Leadership Network, and his university health system has been ISO 55001 certified. So we really bring things together. And what we realized, and this is news to MJ, but if we just focus on MJ and Art as our students, that we want to show in a session on Monday a range of capabilities that are possible using web tools and processes, and they are able to work together better from our one session, that will be a success. And then we show the results of our presentation of the BIMStorm on Monday in a very small version, a very small presentation, just to have people understand what's possible. And then we have discussion with Art and MJ about what they're doing. And of course, the tools that NIBS has available will be referenced, and the Asset Leadership Network will be referencing ISO 55000 and how to use it. So I thought that the best way to approach this is to have an ISO 55001 approach to our presentation. It's a conceptual, you got to get your mind around it. But actually, Kimon, can you show the Word document? I think it would be good if I talk through it that way. So if you can expand that, because we only see half of it. Why don't we say we're going to create an asset, that we are a team and we're going to create an asset. And the assets will be that 15-minute presentation, a follow-up guided discussion, and a recording of both the presentation and the discussion. So we're going to be an organization, and we want to create value for our asset, which is this presentation, the discussion, and the recording. So using ISO 55000, what do? We need to have a mission. And I propose that our mission statement be that we give owners a quick understanding of dramatic way they can improve their mission success using web-based tools and processes. So if that's the mission, then what we're working on and the things that we produce are different than in different BIMStorms. And then we have to have measurements of success if you follow the ISO 55000 approach. And MJ is a little more familiar with ISO 55000 than others, but ISO 55001 has a list of 174 things to do if you want to improve your asset management. And anybody can use it differently, so I'm saying we're using it just minimally to touch on a few things. And some of the measurements would be how many people attend, how many people interact, how many people watch the video. When we watch the video after, maybe we add a measurement of success, how many sign up for the next video, the next webinar. And maybe we say how many people download something from NIBS or the ALN website. So if that's what we're doing, it's basically showing Art and MJ how to do this a little better so that they've got a clearer understanding of the tools and processes. And then we just give a presentation of it. And
on
then
Tuesday. So just to be clear on that, the Monday is a new meeting date that we're proposing as a workshop with Art and MJ. And then Tuesday is kind of the launch of the public presentation that we could pull some material from the Monday workshop and then launch into future sessions. Is that correct?
I suggest that it's only, yes, that we only talk about the presentation, basically.
Okay.
Not the presentation, only talk about the workshop, the session that we have with MJ and Art.
Right. Well, we do have to have, it's the kickoff of the whole series, so we have to have some kind of an intro about why are we doing, kind of that short, who's involved, what are we doing, where are we going next type of thing, and then present what happened on Monday.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I would say a lot of this sounds good, but some of it sounds like it's too focused on a specific outcome already. And my understanding of Tuesday was we were offering up something to find out if there was a way that we could help our industry to solve problems they might be having right now. We can work on the methodologies for doing it, but I think that should remain the focus of Tuesday. This might be illustrative, but I don't think we're ready to push people in a direction yet. So if you want to do something on Monday, I mean, that I don't have anything to say about that, but it seems like that's maybe a little more for Tuesday than we're ready for yet. Maybe down the road we go that way, but then maybe it's good to share if there's something useful that comes out of Monday's session with the broader group. If we get a broader group, I mean, we don't even know what's going to happen on Tuesday yet, so.
Yeah. So Roger, I hear what you're saying, and I know that I've just kind of like dropped this on you, and so what I'm proposing does do that, because what I'm saying is that this first session is done after Monday and the presentation Tuesday, and in the discussion people will say, well, we don't need to focus on field hospitals. The Army Corps of Engineers are building those. They've got that covered. What we need is XYZ. And then we say, okay, we can go forward pursuing XYZ because that's what the discussion is leading us to. So what we're trying to show is the full scope of processes that are applicable. How do you want to apply them?
Yeah, I guess, and maybe it's just my first reaction, focusing too much on the process before we get to what the problem is and what we're trying to do seems like we're pushing more of an agenda. I think using this 55,001 process is great, but I guess I'm thinking it's a little more in the background until we figure out what this session is going to be. But that's just my reaction to this, and there's nothing bad with any of this. It's just as I'm hearing it, that's what's coming to mind.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to hear your comments. And yes, this would be in the background. You know, this isn't what we would be talking about. This is for, you know, this concept of measurements and stuff like that is for our understanding of what our mission is. So maybe your idea of mission is something that can influence this. So
Right. This
if
is
you
Young. I
were
just have
to,
one quick question and suggestion on Monday. So what time is this scheduled for Monday?
We don't have
the
a
time
time
has
yet,
not
no.
been scheduled. Art
Okay.
and Peter are flexible. I was going to use this meeting to find out what people's schedule is like so that we could schedule it. I figured as early in the morning on the West Coast as possible. That gives us time during the day to create the presentation for the next day.
Right, exactly, Mike. You're reading my mind. That's what I was suggesting. So maybe what we're discussing right now is let's have the Monday meeting as early as possible, and based on the outcome, we can go ahead and quickly create the most logical storyline for Tuesday. And I think we can go ahead and use some of the outcome of Monday. But I do agree. I think the storyline should be something that's maybe as universally understood and appreciable, at least for this first kickoff. But it seems like a lot of that could be the byproduct of Monday. But let's just maybe first have it and see what the outcome is.
Yeah. So the other kind of overarching part of this is we want to be able to tell a story. Obviously, each time we're telling a story about what's been going on and what's happening, what happened the previous week, what's happening next week if we keep this going, or there might even be different mini exercises that's split off. But Young and I were looking at the Open Geospatial Consortium test bed that was done more than a decade ago. Actually, there was a lot of technical stuff happening in the background. Then they boiled it down to a 5-minute video and then to present to the public. So there's two parts. This part of it can be very technical, a lot of things happening in the background, and then telling the story of how this is helping a specific use case, whether it's with university health system or whether there are kind of private. Everything does not have to be public. There might be project specific stuff that's happening. MJ, for example, I know there's other things happening in your organization that we might not surface here, but if it helps influence. So there's two parts of this, of kind of the open standard messaging approach, and then how can it be potentially applied to use cases right now. And the other big theme, I think, is it's beyond just this crisis right now. How is the industry changing? There was interesting articles that came out in the Wall Street this morning about the crisis has jump-started innovation. What took so long? So a lot of new things are happening that I think we could message out to the building and facility industry and asset management, that this is a good opportunity to help react to immediate needs, but also to help look to the future. How are we changing the industry? And it actually feeds into a lot of what NIBS and ALN and standards organizations have been doing. Does that make sense? I mean, that's kind of the thrust that I see happening, at least on this kickoff. That's why I think this first Tuesday session is important, to set the stage of why are we doing this and how are we going to go about it.
MJ, what do you think?
Yeah. I was trying to unmute myself there. It does make sense, and you know, there's a lot of applicability to facility type. Discussing this format really has a lot more to do with scalability, so that we can address a mobile campus or a modular campus versus, you know, talking to Art about UHS and what do we have there? Increasingly $1.2 billion in healthcare projects across 3 buildings there. There's an ASR outstanding right now to add a lot more to it. So, yeah, I think that, you know, what I bring to the table, when I think maybe Art would bring to the table too, is the owner representative and owner perspective, but much more from the back end and the facility management component. But that this tool enables us to go through the planning and design on the front end and positively impacting the outcomes and operation downstream. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about from our perspective, it doesn't matter if I'm talking about a classroom on a higher ed campus or a podium or a modular hospital. It all means the same downstream. So that's, I think, where we come in, is the scalability and applicability of this. To be open and honest here, I know less about ISO 55000 than probably anyone on this call. What I know from it is, and about it, is all from the ALN, and sitting and watching other folks talking about this and getting momentum. I come up from the Kobe side and then realizing Kobe didn't work for our clients because it was a middleware. So we've gone on to develop our own facility management specifications for owners. And for the first time ever, I've been evangelizing ISO 55000 internally in our company for a while, and no one owner has ever said, let's do it. We finally have an owner that gave us a PO and then said, oh, by the way, we are doing it. So we're very excited to drink from the fire hose, but that's exactly what we'll be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be frank there, that it's if you want me to be a point man to talk about the benefits of ISO 55000, I am not your guy yet.
Okay.
But I'm excited.
Right. Actually, MJ, it's kind of interesting. Definitely appreciate your candor on that. But Mike, what's interesting is I think if you recall, like some of those ALN webinars the series that we held a few years ago. I mean, one takeaway that I got from that is not everybody has to necessarily be an expert on that standard. And I mean, one of the nice things about that standard is you have the people that are knowledgeable about all the inner workings and the development of that. But since it's a standard, many more subject matter experts could focus on their area of expertise, be leveraging that standard and not even necessarily be aware of that. So maybe that's something that you could also talk about, I think. So in this particular case, if we are talking about people who are in charge of developing facilities, they are actually able to do their work a lot faster, more efficiently, and per requirements. And this is all happening in the background because of these standards. And it's not like MJ is saying, they themselves don't have to necessarily be knowledgeable about all the history and development and evolution about that standard itself.
That goes across the whole spectrum too. It's that's part of what the BIMStorms have been about. You bring people together that know different parts of the equation and different types of standards, even different types of tools, and trying to get a common way to communicate, specify a problem, use case, the solution, test things out, throw things out that might not work, make adjustments, and then teach and learn from that.
Yeah,
right. And just one quick word about the OGCWS4 that Kimon had mentioned a little while ago about that whole testbed that happened about a decade ago. I just a real quick word on that, and I think there's some parallels that we can draw from this COVID-19 incident. Is that was the scenario there was, okay, bam, dirty bomb in New Jersey. Now what are we going to do? And the whole idea there, a big message there, is that you have an incident that you actually have to react to. And it's not something that you can take weeks or months. I mean, this is like every hour counts. And the interesting storyline there is in that particular case, you are actually, all these subject matter experts are leveraging web services and standards, data standards, going everything from GIS to CAD to BIM. And the idea here was that you could actually have remote groups of subject matter experts, everything from looking at existing properties and structure to people who know how to assemble a field hospital, and then people in the medical fields as well. And all of these were using data standards to go ahead and quickly respond to an emergency in real time. So I think that there's some parallels there, and I think definitely the ISO 5500, we can go ahead and talk about all of the kinds of data transfers that's going to leverage for this COVID-19 incident.
So Kimo or Young, I want to kind of dovetail that, because in my conversation with Mike yesterday, talking about the over a decade now of experience and discussions and partnership with Onuma, the one major takeaway that I've got from BIMStorms, having having viewed one or two, having some of our staff participate, like Matt Moore participated way back when on a couple of them. But what I really see there is, and I was explaining this to Mike, is the traditional way of all of us in our silos is we have the principal stakeholders, the principal design architect, the senior PM on the construction team, the leaders on the owner's component. They're all discussing things and getting ideas, and then they go back to their shops where it gets disseminated down and translated into individual languages, one or two tiers down for the people who actually work. And the value I've really seen out of the Enuma system and components of it, as well as the BIMStorm approach in general, is that you get the stakeholders who are making decisions along with the technicians in the same room at the same time and doing real-time translation, because we have so many different standards being spoken about. When you can get them all communicating with one another, you skip that step of translation right off the bat, and that's what I think is a huge value here. So.
Yeah, and it's again, it's not only about the Onuma system or even one application. It's actually what happened with OGC too. Is you want all these tools to be able to communicate with each other, because otherwise you have asynchronous, things that are out of sync, and the communication just doesn't happen. Once you have the services broadcasting out, well, here's what's happening, then anybody else can consume it and use it in another application, another use case for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Actually,
So that
Roger,
was.
I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if you remember this OGC, that this is what Steve Hagen and GSA was involved with. This was in 2007, actually. We were involved in it as well.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I wasn't able to go up to it when you were doing it because there was a NIBS event that I was already committed to, so I was sad. You guys were up in Baltimore, I think.
It was a Port Authority in New Jersey.
Oh, right, of course. So actually, that was the discussion I wanted to have before I mentioned the mission statement thing. You just mentioned that, Art and MJ were going to be involved. So I'm really thinking that, the ISO 55001 approach is important and good and will help us have discipline. And the first thing of 5000 is, what is the objective of the organization and how does this activity support the mission? So we need to state an objective or of the organization. What are we trying to do? And then align our mission with that. It is my contention that we've got a very short amount of time because people's attention spans are short. So that changes. It's not that their attention spans are short, it's that everything is changing and people have very little time now. So that changes what our mission is. And I believe that our mission is to let people know that these tools and processes work effectively and that they can have the confidence to pursue exploring them further. Does that sound along the lines of what you guys were thinking?
Yes, from my perspective, MJ, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds good. Maybe we should talk a little bit about the Tuesday session. Monday, I think we're going to be going through the workshop with Art.
That's what I am talking about. It's the mission for activities, which include the mission for Monday and the mission for Tuesday. And
then
things that you guys were mentioning are very important and good, but I don't think they all support the mission. I think we mentioned that we've been doing this for years and it goes back. And we've got one slide that lists BIMStorms and links, and people can reference this, and we can send them a PDF and they can have live links, but we're not going into the details about what's been done in the past. That's not our mission. We're
Yeah,
not
for
talking
Tuesday.
about how society is changing and showing, you know, what's going on. Everybody gets that. This is not the place to be talking about what everybody knows. This is a place to show that there is a path forward. Things have gone into the shithole, and how do you get out of it? I think use ISO 55001 as your guide going into the future. You state your mission, and then there's other steps to follow, including information requirements.
Right. So maybe we should look at the outline that, are we still
No,
okay with this outline?
that outline is different now that MJ and Art are involved.
So how are we going to start off on Tuesday with the intros and everything here? If we go back to the top here, actually, there's one more person you need to talk about here just quickly is Gary. What's his participation and role? And this is from the Atlanta airport.
He is somebody who is an actual facility owner. He represents the Atlanta Airlines airport terminal company. But anyway, I'll help you correct that later. And he has said that the issue is how does their budget has just been slashed. Their money is gone. They've got to shut things down. They've got to save money on energy. So they're closing things. They've got to understand the relationship between their equipment and shutting things down and the spaces in their facilities and how that impacts human resources. And does anybody need to be in that space? We're not going to be air conditioning it, etc. There's a big relational set of issues that he wants to address, and he's willing to have us do this type of activity for the next week or some other time if we want to. I think it's good to have a real owner. So before we started with one concept and we kept building on it. I think what we're doing this time is showing the process and then show the process how it relates to other types that people bring up in the discussion. And this is something that has been brought up ahead of time. So if nobody says they've got a problem that they want to address, then we can pull Gary's issue out and say this is one way that we can address things in the future.
Yeah. So Monday, Tuesday, he's just observing then. Is that correct?
He's not even invited on Monday. Tuesday
Okay.
he is.
Tuesday is just observing, and we might mention
Yeah, right.
him. Right. Okay, that's fine. All right, so let's go through the steps again. So Monday with Arthur.
Well, I think,
and MJ.
Kimon, the great thing about ISO 55001 is it demands that you have a mission. And I would like us to establish what a mission, have a mission statement for us so that we can then plan everything else going forward.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've got a draft mission statement that we can tear apart and pull apart but this asset is, this mission is based on the concept that what we're doing is a one-time thing for Monday and Tuesday.
Okay.
That kind of flies in the face of what Roger, it doesn't fly in the face, it seems like it flies in the face of what Roger is saying, but I think that if we have this one, this mission of creating assets that people can use, whether the Earth, we don't do anything else, what we deliver on Tuesday will be valuable for people. It'll have links to the whole building design guide. It'll have links to the ISO 55000 activities through the ALN. It'll have links to past BIMStorms. And people won't need us to be able to take the asset that we create and gain value from it.
Yeah, but Mike, it's all that's all well and good, but I don't see how that addresses the question of why we're doing this now.
All right, so go back to that Word document. Owners need to have confidence that they can improve their mission success using these tools and processes.
But they always have that. What do we do? I think there has to be something that's driving why we're putting this out there during this difficult time. What's it intended to help the AECO industry with right now, so that one, they'll pay attention, and two, we're doing something relevant. I thought that was one of the main motivations of doing this and getting it out there. Otherwise,
I think that's what we're doing, Roger. So MJ.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if it looks like what your one guy there is with healthcare, if there's a way they're trying to do something. I mean, it doesn't have to just be about building hospitals. Obviously, that's the most immediate thing. Maybe we missed whatever need there was there, or it's been taken over by other situations. But maybe there are projects that are going to come out of this that are going to have a short fuse. We were talking yesterday about how once whatever work restrictions start to lift, there's going to be a surge in, mostly related to getting existing projects back up to speed, but also if there is money in getting new projects out. And then what's going to happen, if we have a second wave of infestation, whatever you call it, that's not the right word, but a second wave of problems, and we have to go back into quarantines, what's gonna, what effect does that have? I mean, I don't know we get to it at that level, but I still think we're more in responding to the current situation than just helping owners work better. And I don't see that in what I'm reading of what I hear you postulating for. I think it's a good idea to have a mission statement.
So what do you think would be a good mission statement?
Well, I didn't come here with one written, but I think I just articulated what I thought it would be. I guess there may be owners that have needs that they have to, that they need to meet, and we have a workforce out there that's distributed. Is there any way we can pull it together to help? But that may not be a great mission either. So
that is totally aligned with what this is. Totally aligned.
Yeah, well, I guess it's not out of alignment. Yeah.
So this is MJ, and something we've done internally, and we try to do with our owners is, regardless of whether we're doing a $250,000 reno on a nursing station or a multi-million-dollar dorm room, owners' mission statements remain the same no matter what. So I feel that in this time where there may be corners cut. I mean, there are corners cut. There are Texas state legislation that's been dropped, so we can get through permitting faster for healthcare at the moment. There's a lot of constraints that have been removed. Regardless of that, we still need to adhere to our missions and what we do as organizations. So one of the things that we've done internally is we've turned every single component of our mission statement into metrics. Standardized, computable metrics. We collect information on how we do things and apply that through best practice back to our mission statement. That's one way where I see that ISO 55000 and 55001 that all kind of ties back into, most mission statements that I see is to do your job and do it consistently and do it well. And that a lot of that has to do with standardized information and standardized processes and adaptable processes so that they can scale up and down. So, Mike, maybe that's one way where you can kind of hit Roger's points there, is that why is this applicable now? Because it's never not applicable. It just needs to scale rapidly now to the demands of the market, which are dramatically different than they were 2 months ago.
Excellent.
That right there, I think, is a key message, I think, because we're saying this obviously is a crisis, but there are opportunities there to help change the industry for the better, and also to even give a hope and kind of a vision of where this is going for everybody that's kind of frozen right now. There's a lot of people panicking on what's going to happen with the industry. And so all that has to be kind of adjusted of how we're going to work in the future. And so it's a forward-facing vision, and the nimble part of it is how do we adjust things to be able to react quickly, not only to this crisis, but anything else that comes along. It's just like our dress rehearsal. It could get worse. Like Roger said, it could come back. And then there are even articles that what happens if the pandemic was worse, which could happen in the future. If we're not prepared, we'll get hit even harder then. But I think
So I think the way
Tuesday,
to give. Go ahead, Kimon. Sorry.
I'm fine. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think the way to give people that confidence is to actually do it in, show what's done in a short period of time. So, MJ, if we work with you and Arthur and land a field hospital, we pick the assets and design it and land it in one place and then show it in another place. Can you take that asset information and process it and show how it's ready for the CMMS by the next day?
Yeah. No, I think that's ideal. Another thing to think about with these modular hospitals is something gets built, it's not going to hit the client's CMMS, maybe never. And that's an interesting, conundrum. There is standardizing asset data so they can be managed under these constraints, but also knowing that this is all temporary. And so I think about, like a client with like AssetWorks or something like that, AIM, as you're dumping data in, you're not going to be necessarily dumping all this data for these modular components into there. It may be another temporary system. In fact, it would be nice to have a nimble temporary system that you can just apply for right now. The right now system that adheres to the same standards, but can be, right now you got to think about decommissioning too. This is all going to go away soon too, hopefully. So rapid response to increase bed counts, and then in a matter of 6 months, take them all away. So you got to manage them, but you've also got to think about how are you going to decouple this from your system downstream. That kind of made me think about some of the things that are baked in that simple BAS and simple CMMS system where you can rapidly deploy that, then rapidly decommission it. I think that's something we have to consider here, because in this weird market.
Can you show that? Can you show how you would do that with information so that in one day we would show how to design, plan, prepare the asset information for use in operations, and then present it the next day? And if we do that, will that show people a path forward and expose them to things that may be very familiar with us, but you've got a better understanding of what's really happening out there in the world? That'd be valuable to many people.
Yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around how we show it, but Timon, on your platform, do you still have, I forgot what it's called, but the CMMS that's built into it?
Yeah, it's there actually. The BIM Genie.
The BIM Genie.
We use. Yeah. So one thing that I thought, and this goes back to the NIBS project, we had the steps to BIM for VADHA, which has the space types, and then we have our own version of this that we can edit. So we can't edit the SEP's requirements, but we can edit these. One thought, and we've been toying around with this, can we create several modules that would be kind of more of a temporary, and we've already started building this out actually, even using, this is one from the Philippines. It's probably not something they would do here. It's more like a tent structure, but it has like a bill of materials, what you would need inside for quarantine facilities. And the Corps of Engineers has something similar like this, to kind of lists of things. But if we get them into modules like this, and we say, okay, we need 10 beds or whatever, and actually build it up, and this build up inside BIM, automatically we can actually then head it towards a CMS system that is COBE compliant and all that stuff. I know that you guys are a little bit different right now, but it's basically structuring the data in a way that can move to anything else. I think we could use that, and that was the easiest thing right now to do rapidly, because we could take this and just use the steps to BIM process and build up a program.
Yeah, well, one thing we could do rapidly, I think it's already being done, so it's kind of a slight redundant thing here, but Kimon, you referenced the core, and it's the ACS, the alternate care sites. They've got all their specs online. We could just consume those digitally and create that. I've got a client, Broadus has got a client up in Fort Worth that actually has land that are considering currently right now, how do we fill this land with modular buildings for surge capacity? So I'm gonna reach out to the senior PM on that project and see if we can use it as a test case. But then we've got a real time place and a real time client that actually has this need and has already reached out and asked about how can we fill up this chunk of land. So
that's good. Yeah. Yeah, actually, the Corps of Engineers specs, we took those and we converted them into, they basically have these PDFs. And that's the set that you're talking about. Converted it, and we already started analyzing. This is more about renovating and inserting it into a hotel. So some of the sizes of these space don't quite make sense, but they have like the patient rooms, and we have patient room types here. So we took some of these and actually inserted them into the Corps' plan.
Well, and another nice use case for that is core specific is, so the Corps made this the ACS like templates and the specs. And they've had them for years, I think. So this is for a hotel, and it's predominantly what these are kind of looking at. These specs are for a hotel, but they're immediately applying it to the Kate Bailey Hutchison Convention Center in Dallas. That's the target. And I can show you those floor plates too, and it's immense. And that they're going to take the same logic and put them there. And
that's good.
It's kind of an interesting test case. But.
So you're suggesting we would use that as an exercise then?
It could be. It starts to get very COVID centric then. Instead of we just flip the focus, from a scalable approach that you can use it please try to use this proactively, but if you've got a pandemic, use it reactively and size appropriately to making the focus on the reaction instead. So I'm not sure if that was the intent that Roger and Mike were interested in there, but.
Roger, how do you like that?
Yeah, that seems to me more consistent with what I thought we were going to do and out of the gate here with this. We may find that there's no need for this, but we may find that there is, because other parts of the country are certainly at different places. So, I thought our original idea was, can we use this approach to possibly help with any of this kind of rapid planning work that a community could come together and do? I know it gets a little challenging because of contracting and all that kind of stuff, and you don't want to step in and take stuff away from an organization that's trying to do this and get paid for it. But if we could just demonstrate something that others could pick up and rapidly use, that seems like what our quote mission was here out of the gate. So this looks like it fits that.
And if we talk about process and how the process can be used for anything, then we cover that aspect of the mission also.
I absolutely agree with that, Mike. I think that you bake in the process on the rails on ISO 55001. You put them on FM data specs. You put them on program of requirements. You put all that in the back end, and then you're adhering to these those ramifications no matter what. And I think if that's a big benefit here to this type of approach. BIMStorm is you on the front end of this, you bake all the criteria into the tool. So on the back end, even though you're reactive and doing something immediately, you're still adhering to the same criteria you wanted to in the first place.
Kimon and Young, are you fine with doing this on the in Dallas as opposed to doing it at the Armed Forces Retirement Home?
That's fine. We could use the same modules there too later. It's basically we're trying to tell a story of how are we starting this week, and we're doing this one study in Dallas, and that can be moved anywhere else.
Right.
I think you could do both really rapidly. Show them side by side.
15 minutes. We can do a lot, but what can we present?
Well, we would have if we do it on Monday, we'll have a screenshot of one and the other and say we did this and did a quick study. And this material from the core essentially is posted on the web. It's open source. And even these other one that I showed from Manila is open source. And there's another one from Italy. So there's a lot of modules out there, but it's not easy to gather them quickly. Like this is a group in Italy that's looking at containerizing modules for patients like that.
We actually reached out to them, Simone.
What's that?
We actually reached out to them, Kura, after you shared it with us. They're still kind of in a prototypical phase, but we were interested in what they had to do. There's another couple that we're looking at too, DIRT, D-I-R-T-T, modular. And they're not anywhere near as cool as Kura, but they've actually got like 1 million square feet sitting on a lot waiting for us to deploy. So,
yeah, DIRT is here in Chicago. They're great.
Yeah.
Do it right this time.
That's exactly what they are. Yep, that's it.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
The guys, we've used them in the past.
What do you think about Dallas?
I threw this out, and here's my concern with it: is we are quickly getting away from ART and UHS. So I just want to.
Well, we were purposefully away from ART and UHS by doing it in Washington, and that way we were not making him feel uncomfortable that anything that we were doing would have kind of approval, or people would think that UHS was actually doing this.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the benefit of moving it to other sites. And then ART is an expert who is helping us with his knowledge related to doing this type of activity somewhere else. It kind of covers him.
I'm going to find.
So would it make more sense to keep it neutral at AF and DC at the AFRH site, and then be able to take these modules and run planning?
I think there's some immediate relevancy to your suggestion, Kimon, too, because what I just read is DC is just starting to ramp up with their case counts. And their peak is coming and hasn't come yet. So there might be a smart test case.
Yeah, and we have that site from last year's BIMStorm, Mike, that we did.
It's already made. There is that, and I don't want to basically, whatever you say, Kimon, I don't want to make you guys do too much work, but
right. Yeah, I would feel comfortable, since we already have it there, to actually prototype layouts there and say, okay, now let's take it to Dallas. We could have different types of modules just parked on the site, and then run the planning scenarios right there and move them over.
And then ask ART, what's the difference? Yeah.
Yeah, and then ask ART. So maybe Monday's session, if we have a few modules ready to go, and we have ART and say, ART, what is your need at your facility? And then we just pick that up and move it over there. There's just that exercise alone, just to show that if we have information already at our fingertips, which goes back to the SEPs to BIM approach, is that if you have data about what goes inside a quarantine facility, we don't have to go and scroll through PDFs and Excel files to find out what goes in there, which is the status quo. Is right now it's a bunch of PDFs flying around what goes in. Even the Corps of Engineers material is kind of like that too.
I came across a tool this morning. I forgot where it came from. I think it was ASHI or AHA or something like that. But it's NBBJ. It's got a COVID tool site, and they've got a little Power BI dashboard in there that you work with, you can play with. And I thought it was really cool. I just shared it in the chat, and it's even using terms that, because I'm not a total healthcare person, that I'm not exactly sure what they mean, like percent IP deferrals. Elective surgeries being postponed for COVID patients type deal. So this calculator here, scroll up, come on. It's right in the middle where the graph is. That you can play with that. So if you ask the right people like Art, what you need, this is a surge calculator, or here's the beds I'm going to need and the duration I'm going to need them. I was like, wow, that's a really cool tool that they put out there for the public. And it could be something that could even inform us on the fly is, okay, give us a scenario. And okay, healthcare admin director, you tell me what's happening there. And this changes our needs. Here's our surge bed count requirements. Here's when we need them. So we need to go from no surge to peak surge in 3 weeks and maintain that for 6. How are we going to do that?
Right.
Roger, does this get to what you wanted to see?
Well, does what? I don't quite. This analysis of
The bed
this
demand
is a
count based on
planning
surge,
tool.
yeah.
So hospitals could say, we are expecting to increase in 3 weeks, have a need for this many beds, and then it will decrease. And once you have that information, then you can start making plans.
yeah, I think this is interesting. I guess I don't know. Well, I guess if we're treating this as a like sharing of what's out there that might be useful that surrounds planning a facility, this kind of thing. I mean, I don't know how vetted this is, but this kind of thing tells you what the demand's going to be and when you'd have to have it. So that's a necessary element. So I guess drawing some attention to this would be good. I guess this does highlight the care we have to take in how we position something that we haven't necessarily, studied or used.
Knowing the Onuma team, I bet you they're going to use it by Monday.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Kimon has we'll have a feeling for it by then. I guess, I think this is an important part of the process, definitely.
Right. So we're almost at the top of the hour. In the last 2 minutes, I'm just wondering, should we go ahead and discuss Monday? It sounds like maybe we can, are we thinking like this would be an hour session, 2-hour session? And maybe we can see our calendars and see what works. If Art is flexible on Monday.
Art and Jim are flexible. Roger, it would be great if you're available.
It would be interesting for me, but I'm just looking for my calendar. I don't know how much time I'm going to have Monday. Yeah. Wait.
Tuesday on your calendar, right? For that 11, let's see, 2 o'clock start.
I got 1:30 to 2:30. Is that what we agreed?
I can do it after.
1:30 just to be ready. 2 to 2:30, I guess, is what you said. But yeah, Monday is not too good for me. I've got meetings at 9, 11, 1, 3, and 4.
Wow.
So,
okay.
but maybe you can go ahead without me on this. I mean, I think, Kimon and you guys can figure this part out, and I'm
yeah, and if you have a break in between, you could just come in for a few minutes and just.
Yeah, if you've got something set up, I can try and jump into it, but I can imagine it's going to be a challenge on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're going to want to know what you want to say so that we can have slides set up. Perhaps you can send us links that you think are pertinent from.
I mean, I don't want to say much. I just want to, draw, I guess, maybe I haven't even thought about any slides, or what I was going to say. I want to highlight what NIBS is trying to do on the whole building design guide, and I want to maybe just highlight the way we've worked on these kinds of the way we've worked for facility owners together with Enuma to make it so that assets and the information about them can be evaluated efficiently and things can be accessed because the data is separate from the applications. That's probably all the message I would deliver.
Right. So on Monday, how about 1 to 2:30 Eastern? Is that enough time?
1 to 2:30 Eastern, did you say?
Right. Would that work?
I think that's good.
Yeah, no, that's great for me too. It's a good block. I will reach out. I saw both of y'all's comments. I'll go ahead and reach out to at least two folks, Boyd Black and Greg Hughes. Mike, you may know Boyd from Chicago. He was up at University of Chicago, director of facility planning construction up there for a long time.
Yeah, he's working with you guys now?
Yeah, he's a Broadus employee. He's managing the program for Memorial Hermann, Breaking New Ground Hospital. It's the big one.
Yeah. You guys got somebody spectacular.
Oh, we do. And what's a cool backstory with him is the reason Broadus knows him is because he hired us, the technology group, to do the BIM standards and FM standards for University of Chicago. So we know each other well from back then. So he's a great guy, great employee. And Kimon knows Greg Hughes, great medical planner, years of experience and history, knows just about everyone in the industry. So. And what I was thinking about there is, from our perspective as an owner's representative, we can talk with me about the tech guy who knows kind of the facility and management requirements on the back end, Greg Hughes, who's the planner, and maybe someone like Boyd Black as a healthcare program manager. You kind of fill the gap on what we're looking at from an owner's perspective on these projects from cradle to grave. So,
actually, what would be great from their input, if they have information like these modules that we're trying to create, even if it's just 2 or 3 room types, if we get something that's realistic. Here we just pulled them off of the image from the Corps of Engineers layout, and then we started trying to pull here. But if we could kind of get to a point where we have a few modules like this, whether they're patient room or whatever you call it, something that's realistic, and then we could have it ready for Monday. Or maybe that's part of the exercise on Monday. Let's design 2 or 3 of these core types, and then start. Even if we just say what's the size of it, and later on we could fill them in, something like that.
Greg put together an assessment questionnaire for our clients for their immediate surge requirements. That leads to the development of a POR. So I haven't seen the back end program of requirements that would have like this criteria, but I'm fairly certain it exists. So those are 2 components I kind of want to get to. Is if you ask questions X, Y, and Z and you get these answers, they immediately turn on these components and they're predefined.
Right.
So yes,
right. Exactly. Yeah. And that would fit right in here. And then if we use the SEPs, so the standard 1691 equipment, like here's ventilators I just searched, and there's 10 different ventilators. Which ones do we need? Somehow getting a few things that are realistic like that, I think would. And we could fill it in later on as well too, but having something to define what are we going to do in Dallas, or what we're going to do with.
Yeah, I think it's important we don't spend the whole time just looking at PowerPoints, and we get to see some of how it could actually work.
That's right.
Because I
Yeah.
think that
Monday.
the idea of this is a call to action for a subsequent session, which might then get more into doing this kind of stuff, but making sure we show some things that are out there and are usable.
Right.
If my understanding
We
is
don't have to
right,
solve-
the Monday session is just, it's a work session, roll up your sleeves and get it done. Isn't that correct?
That's right.
Correct. And then Tuesday is
okay.
the presentation of what we have done.
Okay, yeah, if Monday, we probably shouldn't have a single slide at all, correct? We should just be in the web working together?
Yeah. Workshop. Yeah. Workshop. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
So if we have designers that, like Greg and whoever, that can come in and say, okay, let's actually set up these prototypes, boom, just get it done. Even if they're hand sketching and saying, well, here's a size, and we build it up and have it ready to go.
And I think the other thing that's kind of nice is, I can't commit them now. I don't know their availability, but if they say, yeah, I've got 5 minutes, I think that actually plays into this whole
That's right.
approach. Is okay. We only got you for 5 minutes. Here's the 5 questions we need to ask you. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So on Monday, what do you expect, want from me specifically? What do I have open on my screen? What am I doing?
I am going to go through the recording of this and pull out a mission statement that I will pass by you guys for review and try to organize with Kimon, outline the workshop, which is clearly going to be very rushed relative to what would happen probably in the course of a day for something like this. And we'll share that with you as soon as we can.
Okay, great. I've got a few things and resources that have been actually shared from UHS team in the past, from Art's organization, actually John Alanis, as well as a few others. So some of the criteria we put for healthcare are really they're ASHE, AHA, and so on and so forth related. So I've got some of those constraints already.
Anything that you think you want to share, please share ahead of time for us to get used to and understand how it fits in.
You got it. We'll do.
Okay. Great.
MJ, just do what you did today. You get this really well.
All right, definitely. We'll do.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Thanks, Mike. Nice to talk to you, MJ. Thanks, Jan.
Yeah, and be safe, everyone. Bye.